so I'm currently locked in my room and I don't know what to do. I'll give you all some background before I dive right into what's been happening. So, I'm currently living in, let's say, a large city in the UK. I've just moved here to study and rent is super expensive, so I decided to rent a room from a landlady. She's Chinese, she's really kind, and there are 3 other tenants living in the house. So far, it's been pretty ideal. She works long hours, so she's barely here and the house is always very quiet, which is the perfect atmosphere for studying. The only major drawback is that I have to ask her permission before I have people over, and we can't have house parties. But I'm a mature student, so I don't really care about that. I've been living here for about 4 months now, and everything has been absolutely fine. So fast forward to tonight. The weather where I live has been pretty stormy recently. It's past midnight. I can hear the wind howling and there's downpour going on outside. About 3 hours ago, I suddenly remembered that my boyfriend was going to be coming over next week. I went to knock on my landlady's door and ask for permission, but no one answered and I saw no light under the door. I decided to text her saying, "Hello, sorry to bother you. I was just wondering whether it would be alright for my boyfriend to come over next Tuesday and stay overnight until Wednesday." After a couple of minutes, she replied with, "Of course, no problem." It suddenly dawned on me that it was already 9 PM and my landlady was normally back from work by 7 PM at the latest. She drives out of the city for work and, with the inclement weather conditions, I became quite worried about her. I texted her again saying, "Thank you. You're alright? Is there a lot of traffic because of the rain?" I didn't get any response immediately, so I went back to doing my reading for my classes next week. About an hour later, at approximately 10 PM, I finally got a response. It had been so long that the sound of my phone really startled me. This is where it starts to get weird. The message from my landlady read, "Don't worry, I am fine. I was in an accident and now I'm dead." Understandably, this freaked me out, but English is my landlady's first language and she's made worse spelling mistakes before, so I wasn't too concerned. The wind, however, was getting louder and the rain more fierce. I was really concerned that she might be hurt and even contemplated calling the police. I replied immediately saying, "I'm so sorry to hear that. Was it a bad accident? Where are you? Are you staying in a hotel tonight?" This time she replied very quickly and the message read, "No, tonight I sleep next to you." Again, this struck me as quite strange, but our rooms are next door to one another, so I thought that might be what she meant. That being said, her English wasn't normally this bad. I decided I would leave it and go back to doing my reading. Within about 10 minutes, my phone went off again, and there was another message. It was in Chinese, so it took a lot of wrangling with Google to finally decipher it. But this is what I think it says. When I wrote it into Google Translate, the translation came back saying, "I am so hungry." I assumed that she had meant to send this text to one of her Chinese friends, but had sent it to me by an accident. Perhaps she was out in the cold and wet, waiting for a recovery van for a broken down car, complaining to her friend that she wanted to go home and eat dinner. It all still seemed relatively innocuous, so I decided to write back saying, "Sorry, I don't understand what that means. Did you mean to send that to another friend? You're right." At that point, she tried calling me, but for some reason the thought of answering the call sent chills down my spine. After all, the whistle of the wind, the oppressive dark outside my window, the crash of raindrops against the glass, it was all quite creepy. Not to mention the weird way in which she'd been speaking. Eventually, the call rang off, but it was immediately followed by a message which read, "My name, Chinese signs." After more fumbling with Google Translate, I discovered this meant, "You make me very angry." The presence of my name at the start of the message assured me that this time it was definitely intended for me, even though my landlady knows I can't read or speak Chinese. My landlady is a really sweet and docile older lady, so I was quite surprised that she would say something so openly aggressive.
"I'm sorry if I've upset you. I hope you make it home safely."
She didn't respond, and feeling a touch shook up, I eventually went back to my reading. After a while, I calmed down and realized it was probably all a mix-up. I did, however, become more concerned that my landlady still hadn't shown up. So, just before midnight, when I heard the familiar creak of the front gate, I was actually quite relieved. I nearly poked my head out of the door to greet my landlady, but decided that might be a bit weird. I heard the key in the lock, the slam of the door, their footsteps slowly creeping up the stairs. But what I heard next made my blood run cold. My landlady stood directly outside my bedroom door and began whispering something that sounded like, "My name? Whoa, her. My name? Whoa, her." Occasionally getting louder and more frantic, then reverting back to the calm but persistent whisper. I could hear her fingernails scratching slowly but purposefully on the wood. I immediately ran to the door and locked it. I've never been more thankful to have a bedroom door with an individual lock. As soon as she heard the lock go, she let out this horrifying wail and started beating on the door. I was genuinely so terrified that I just curled up on my bed and sat paralyzed, staring at the door. After what felt like a century, she stopped banging, and I haven't heard from her since. I've managed to gain my composure, but I haven't contacted anyone yet. What should I do? Should I leave my room? Should I call the police? I want to leave the room, but I'm afraid she might be out there. It's past midnight now, and I don't know what to do. Please help.